I want to show y'all something real quick. I don't know if y'all could tell. It's like smoky around here. There's something significant about this truck I want y'all to see. Okay, so I'm chilling over here in this area, and this truck comes by, and he starts spraying asbestos. It's like it's all in the sky. I don't know if y'all could tell from the way like everything looks, but it's all smoky. Like you see from the light, it's kind of smoky. They're spraying asbestos around this whole parking lot. And I felt the need to share this with you because I've been struggling with cancer for a very long time. Like it made all my hair fall out, it made my bones weak, it made me bleed excessively. I've been struggling with cancer for a very long time. And aside from the injuries that I accumulated from being gang stalked, I also got some injuries from, I mean, not injuries, but I've also struggled with my health. Like I said before, poor dieting, but also being poisoned. And this is just something that it continues to go on. Like with the gang stalking and everything, with me being followed around all the time, like they micromanage everything. Like they track where I go, they track where I live, they track what I eat. This is very strategic. And I just felt the need to share this with you guys because the reality of my situation is that this is not something that I can just call the police about and it's squashed. This is not a situation where I can just get up and walk away and then let that be it. There's a pattern, there's a consistent pattern of their behavior and the way they treat me. There's a consistency of it. And it's so many people that are ganging up on me that say if I was to call them out in a street fight, there'd be another one, another one, another one that they decide to gang up on me and jump me. Like that's what they decide to do. It's hard to avoid. And the majority of the people that are the problem that give me a hard time are bad white people. There's a consistency of it. I mean, they do this to their own people. They do this to their own children. I mean, they're willing to poison their own children, throw them out to the pack of wolves, feed their babies to the alligators. Like, this is their culture. Like, the bad white people, this is their culture. This is what they practice. When they're dealing with someone that they can't deal with legally, they'll start using illegal practices. Like, asbestos is illegal. It's an illegal substance. It's a carcinogen. It's not even supposed to be anywhere near the hands of any scientist, doctor, let alone a grocery store. But bad white people have been using asbestos and spraying it in the air with these chemtrails, and they've just been spraying it along. And they've been doing this to me ever since I was a little girl. Ever since I was a little kid, they've been spraying asbestos. And, if you consume carcinogens for an extremely long time, it has negative side effects. And there are signs to let you know that you are being poisoned. I follow under all the categories of being poisoned. There are obvious signs that I'm being poisoned. Still to this day, like this isn't something that happened in the past and now it's over and done with. No, this is something that I have to live through every day, being poisoned, people spraying asbestos, people setting off gas leaks around me, like, trying to poison me, trying to kill me slowly to make it look like it was an accident or to make it look like it was just a coincidence or like I made bad choices. No. You know what I'm saying? Like that's not the case. I can admit that I'm flawed and that I'm not perfect. I put in a lot of effort to redeem myself and change my life around. I mean, I'm no different from any other human being on this planet. But what's not acceptable is to go around following me every day, putting fecal waste in my food, poisoning my water supply, spraying it asbestos anywhere you find me. I mean, I see airplanes, cars, sometimes even people just spraying gas, spraying asbestos, spraying whatever toxins or arsons that they can find, whatever arsenic chemicals that they can find that they can spray in the air around me. They do. They do this often. cook foods that I'm allergic to intentionally so that I can get sick and then they can make it look like an accident. This happens enough times to where this is not really something that I can walk away from. A lot of people that are not being gang stalked, they truly don't understand how difficult it is to deal with people who suffer from psychosis. Like these people are not mentally ill. Like that's throwing shade towards people who suffer with mental illnesses. Most of the time, people who suffer with mental illnesses, it's a result of trauma, unhealed trauma. That's not their fault. They've just been victimized and they're a survivor for it. But people with psychosis go around and cause trauma on, they put trauma on others and create these trauma bonds because the reality of it is they're narcissists. They know it. People are starting to become more educated and people are starting to detect who they are, and so they come after me, people who are whistleblowers. So don't be surprised if you go online and you see, people who are very strong-willed, who are resilient towards, evil principalities, people who are whistleblowers to this type of behavior, who are leaders, who are natural born leaders who spread information. I mean, they don't have to be leaders, but they're whistleblowers. They put people on game. They make people aware of what's going on. That they like. It's a lot of people out there that have don't know about gang stalking. They don't know the targeted individuals' experience, and a lot of people are dismissive because they're either perpetrators, they're negligent bystanders, which they see everything that's going on with you. They know exactly how you're being treated. They know it's wrong. They know that they can intervene and help. They have the power to stop it, but they choose to be selfish. And then there's people who are just uneducated. They don't know that, you're being gang stalked, or they notice that something's off, by the way you're being treated and how you're always being picked on, but they don't understand the full extent of how dangerous it is to be a targeted individual. They don't understand how it affects someone psychologically and emotionally until they either see for themselves or unfortunately they get targeted. And I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but experience in these situations is the best teacher because evidence in some cases isn't always enough because the gang stalkers have been doing this for many years. So a lot of them, when they commit these type of crimes, they're backed up and supported by police officers. How many times can I tell you that I've called the police for, being bankrupt because I was, being robbed constantly. My bank account, my funds have been hacked into constantly, phone stolen. I was kicked out of a home. I wasn't able to get a job anymore. And I've gone to the police for some type of support because my identity's been stolen. I mean, as many times, I mean, my rights were violated. I was assaulted. I mean, there was evidence. There was literally physical evidence on my body that could prove that I was in danger and being physically attacked on a daily. Like there were fresh wounds. And the police did nothing and said nothing about it. And then I was forced to go right back to the same areas where these people would gang up on me and put me in danger and attack me, sometimes physically, sometimes, by distance, like by poisoning me, by drugging me, by, hacking into my bank accounts or hacking into my phone or hacking into my account. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've had to change my account or get a new one or delete my old accounts and then I was being hacked into again. I don't know how many times I've had to clear my phone, clear my laptop, clear everything on there and start over, and I still got hacked. Checked all my phones and laptops and stuff to see if there were any bugs in there, made sure there were none, you know what I'm saying, and I still got hacked. So it was just there was a pattern that, any idea that anybody would mention as far as standing up for myself or doing something about it, I've done. Still to this day I'm fighting for my rights. And these gang stalkers, they just keep doing it because a lot of them, most of them are parasites. Like parasites, a parasitic relationship is pretty much, for those that don't know, is the person who is feeding off the host, which is the leech, who's feeding off the host is harming the host. And with a lot of parasitic creatures, they feed and feed and feed off a host and cause harm to the host until the host is dead. Parasites, a lot of times they don't think about what goes on around them, the effect that they have on the environment and other species. They're only thinking about their next meal. And sometimes They get greedy. They get so greedy that they end up killing all of their supply. And then it gets to the point to now they still have to feed, they still have to eat, but they have nothing else to eat because they destroyed everything they touched. And that's how a lot of the bad white people are. They don't care if they kill off everybody in the planet because they're parasites. The only thing they can think of is how they're going to get narcissistic supply. How are they going to consume someone's energy? How are they going to steal someone's DNA? How are they going to take credit for other people's hard work and ideas? How are they going to access people's natural born rights, their royalty, right, their inheritance? How are they going to get access to that? And they play dirty. A lot of them, they play dirty. They do things like I said, get someone's children taken away from them, get someone kicked out of a home, making sure that someone is not able to get a job, making sure that they're not able to eat properly, to eat healthy. They make sure that basically you're either forced to eat junk food or they'll put something bad in your food. This is a cycle, a pattern. Bad white people have been doing this for centuries. For centuries, they've been doing this. They've been forcing people to eat unhealthy by poisoning the fruits and the vegetables in the grocery stores, by jacking up the prices on vegan and vegetarian meals, by making junk food and meat extremely cheap for people to be able to afford. And say if this is where this is not about money, they still poison the fruit and the vegetables. A lot of times they give people rotten fruit. I've gone to a lot of homeless shelters all around America, and they intentionally give people poisonous fruit and vegetables, or sometimes they'll give people, if it's not poisonous, it's completely rotten. It's not safe to eat, and it can kill you. Or it can make you very sick, depending on if they poison it or if it's rotten. It's just a consistency of making sure that people of color or decent people, decent human beings are dependent on them so that they can portray the image of being the hero. They can portray the image of actually helping people when really they're just patronizing people. And I mean, a lot of people are waking up to this. A lot of people are becoming smart and waking up to this type of behavior, and they're clapping back. So even if they don't have the money or the power or the influence to stop that behavior, they're standing up for themselves. They're not allowing these, Karens and Billy Bobs to threaten them into silence or to threaten them to, I guess, obey or be docile. A lot of people are smartening up and they're waking up and they're starting to see that supporting these types of people with this mindset is not going to get any of us anywhere. We're all going to, if we continue to support bad white people, we're all going to die. Our children are going to die. We're going to lose everything. We're never going to get our reparations. The only way that we will get our reparations is if the universe grants that to us. Because the bad white people, if they had to steal it from us in order to have the royalty, the title, what makes you think they're going to give it back? The good white people don't have the finances to give us reparations, nor the power. If they had the finances, they don't have the power to do that. But what they are doing is giving public apologies. That's enough, because what's on somebody's heart is more important than them get, like, you see all types of bad white people with cameras posting pictures, posting videos or vlogs on the internet, giving people money. They do that to make themselves look good and to portray that white, that white savior, that white and shining armor image. And they do this often, but their heart's not in it. And it's clear as day that their heart's not in it and that they're part of the problem. The only reason why they're flexing and giving people money on the street is because it makes them feel superior. Is because it portrays that image that they're good people, that they're decent people when they're not, and that they are the problem. Is to throw people off of throw people off of their scent, to distract people from figuring out that they are the problem and handling it properly, throwing these suckers in jail. That's why they're going around giving people money and putting a camera all in their face, because they don't do this behind closed doors. A lot of the people that are on the streets that they give $120 to, they've robbed that person of their inheritance. And then they put a camera in their face to be like, oh, I stole all your money. I'm responsible for you being on the streets. And now I'm going to give you $20 because I say it's okay for you to eat. That's the way a lot of these bad white people think. I'm going to start calling them Decepticons because there are good white people out there, and I don't want to throw good white people in the same category as bad white people because they're white. I don't have a problem with white people as long as they're good. You see what I'm saying? So I'll just call them Decepticons from here on out. Hopefully I remember that. But Decepticons, because that's what the conscious community has been calling them for years, and I'm gonna go ahead and hop on that bandwagon so that when I say Decepticons, y'all will already know what I'm talking about because that's what they actually are. They actually are Decepticons. They trick people into thinking that they're decent people, that they're good people. They lead people on. They send mixed messages on intentionally because they know that if they were to show their true colors and take the mask off, a lot of people would not approve. A lot of people would not support them. A lot of people would not be friends with them, would not deal with them, would not tolerate them or be anywhere near them. And they will probably be arrested or possibly dead if they were to show their true colors. So they're Decepticons by nature because they blend into society until the universe tests their character and then their mask slips right off. That's why they're being called Decepticons because they're the way they move, the way they treat living organisms, they're not human. They pretend to be human, but they're just not. And it's time that the community start holding Decepticons accountable for their very poor judge of character, for their bad behavior, because these Decepticons, this is not an accident. This is not something that they're doing by nature. You know, they're doing this intentionally because they are parasites by nature. This is how they think. This is what they, with all the money, the resources, the white privilege that they do have, you would think that they'd spend that, taking care of their families, taking care of their children, doing the things they love. Some of them are, but they're only doing that because they've screwed other people out of their own inheritance and ruined other people's lives. But the majority of them, with all that money that they have to travel and do productive things, they choose to parasitically feed off the life forces of people of color and even their own people. Good white people, they do this to good white people who they call them the N-word lovers. That's what they call them. Good white people, the ones that are not racist, that don't, fit the status quo of being a Karen or a Billy Bob. They do them dirty too. Some of them get treated worse than people of color because they're willing to give up their white privilege to do the right thing. So keep that in mind. It's people of color are not the only ones suffering it. They're, the Decepticons' children are suffering too. They will not hesitate to throw their own people under the bus. They will not hesitate to throw their own people under the bus to get an opportunity with a person of color. That doesn't take away from the fact that they're colorist and that they're racist and that they're bigots. No, it doesn't take away from that. But the fact that they're willing to throw their own child under the bus, throw their own cousins, their own family members under the bus to make money with someone they deem as the enemy goes to show how slithering, sneaky, and slimy they really are. So I just want to spread awareness because I have to deal with racism every day. This isn't something that I just walk into. This is something that haunts me, follows me around everywhere I go. And what I've noticed, the consistent patterns is the majority of the people that follow me around and give me a hard time are white men. I mean, white people in general, but most of them, the Decepticons that harass me and follow me around, the majority of them are white men. I mean, and that doesn't mean that white women don't participate because some of them are white women, but the only white women that have ever come after me in a negative light, in a negative way, and have made my life a living hell are Karens. I've never seen a good white person ever come after me for being black. I've never seen a good white person come after me because of my sexual identity. Never. And that's something that I can stand firm on. That's the difference between a good white person and a Decepticon. And let me just reiterate, we need we desperately need to find out who the good ones are so that we don't give them the punishment that a Decepticon deserves. If we're dealing with a good person, a good white person that's asking like for advice or help on these type of issues, on racial issues, so that they can learn to be more sensitive, to be more compassionate, to have empathy when the time comes, or to do the right thing because they may have the power to. We have to do our part and answer their questions. I mean, if it's a stupid question, don't answer it. But it may seem stupid to us because we've been through this for centuries. But the reality of the situation is we're dealing with spiritual parasites. They'll destroy this whole planet before they give us our freedom or our reparations. It's a pattern of that. That's not going to change. So when a good white person comes and they ask questions, answer. If they've been identified as a good white person and they want to ask, or they ask questions that's already been answered, just don't give them too much of a hard time, because a lot of them, they may not have gotten this type of education. Like a lot of white people in general they get taught racism. I mean, we've all been taught racism in school. Even black people, we know we've been taught racism because how they hide our history from us. They don't teach us about comedic science. They don't teach us about Egyptology in school, because that's teaching racism, and it teaches people of color to have self-hatred. They don't teach our cultures and identities in school. We have to go to college to take those classes, and those are considered an elective. A lot of those the foreign languages and those cultural study classes are considered electives. And the Decepticons, they do this intentionally to miseducate people and to block them and stop them from having access to their identity. And when they strip people away from their identity, they're stripping people away from their ancestors, their spiritual connection to the universe. They know exactly what they're doing, and this is why the judgment has been made. Okay, the Decepticons have to get off this planet, and they are no longer welcome here at all because of the choices that they've made in the past, present, and in the future. They're going to continue to make these mistakes. And no amount of religion or prayer or guidance counseling or therapy is going to change that. These people are wicked to the core, and there's nothing that's going to change. They have to be judged in the afterlife if they're still alive when they're forced to evacuate the planet. If they die in that process, they'll be judged in the afterlife, but we have to let a higher power handle that. The only thing that we can do is point blame at the Decepticons that we know are Decepticons, and we have to stop supporting them. Period. We don't need to stoop to their level. We don't need to make racial slurs. We don't need to kick them while they're down. It's no need for that, because the universe is not supporting them spiritually. And if you're not supported by the universe spiritually, your health is going to decline without anyone having to poison you. No one will need to poison you. I'm being poisoned. Targeted individuals get poisoned. Whistleblowers, leaders, good people, they get poisoned. They get assassinated. But when you're dealing with a Decepticon, notice most of them, they have poor health because they end up killing themselves by their own actions. Most of them, they, and this is no shade towards anyone that struggles with drug dependency, okay? Because I used to struggle with it myself, so I'm not judging nobody, but a lot of them, they struggle with their own addictions, and those addictions or bad behaviors end up killing them without anyone having to lay a finger on them. That's different than a targeted individual dying of lead poisoning. That's different than a good president being assassinated because there are just a terrorist extremist that went out and killed this person or murdered this person. You see what I mean? These Decepticons die by their own actions. They drain themselves. It's like with any parasitic living organism. The moment you stop feeding them, they either dry out or they eat themselves. It's like with snakes. If you don't give them any food, they eat their own tail. With leeches, they dry out and they dissolve into the mud. And there's so many other animals that are parasitic that if the moment you stop feeding them, the moment you stop supporting them and their life force, their energy, their aura, they die out. Some of them eat each other. I mean, it gets nasty. The process where a parasitic organism suffers from a collapse, they will either eat themselves, eat their own family, their own species, feed off other parasites, or they just dry out. And it's a terrible sight to see.